I read every single book on my TBR this month and more, which is unheard of for me. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going through all of the books that I read in February. This month was such a good month. Coming off of January where I just mood read the entire month, didn't have a single plan, just picked up what I wanted to read. And then coming into February where I did have a TBR, I read them all and more, which is such a good start to the year. So let's talk about them. The first book that I finished, which I think I started in January but finished in February, was Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. I picked this up from the library and I loved it. I didn't think I wasn't going to like it just because I loved the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, but I thought that the idea of this was really fun. Well, okay, for a thriller mystery, like, it's fun, you're intrigued and stuff, but what actually happens isn't fun because basically our main character gets a certain type of brain injury and the doctors predict that she has 1 week left to live. And what is she gonna do? She's gonna figure out who tried to murder her and gave her her brain injury. So we follow, I don't remember her name, I read this so long ago. We follow our main character, basically uncovering the secrets of who murdered her and also secrets of her family and friends around her. And it was a very well written book. My only, issue is a strong word, the only thing that I didn't like as much in this book and why it's not 5 stars is because A Good Girl's Guide to Murder was YA and it read YA. In this book, I'm pretty sure was not supposed to be YA, and the character I think is like 26-ish, so a lot older than most YA characters and honestly most characters in books these days, and it still felt YA. Like, the character just didn't feel like a 26-year-old to me. She could have easily have been a 16, 17, 18-year-old, which is like my only slight annoyance with the book. Otherwise, it was a really good read and I couldn't put this down. I read this so quickly. Next, we read a book which was my TBR jar book at some point last year and I didn't read it. So I decided to pick it up this month, and that was Immortal Longings. I immersively read this, so I had the audiobook and I read my physical copy of it. And I really enjoyed being back in a Chloe Gong world. Now, I loved These Violent Delights, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't think anything can top that. Honestly, maybe her newest release, I think it's called Cold Wire, just because it sounds super intriguing and the marketing she's done for it, or maybe not the marketing, but just like the snippets that she's posted online have hooked me. And I think I'm gonna wait until my friend Lena reads it and lets me know if it's comparable to These Violent Delights, because I don't know what it was about this book itself. It wasn't very comparable to These Violent Delights. Maybe that's just because I read These Violent Delights when I hadn't read that many books, really, because I read it when that came out, I think. So now I just have a lot more to compare this to. Don't get me wrong, I love the world, I love the magic. It has a really cool chi system, and you can like jump bodies and basically take over certain people's bodies depending on how much chi you have. And there's a whole king assassination plot there. It's kind of like if the Hunger Games was in an urban town and there was no arena, they were just let loose on the town and had to, you know, play in the Hunger Games there. So very cool plot. I don't know if I'm going to continue the series. I'm not itching to pick up the next book. However, that last line in the book piqued my interest the most throughout this book, I'm not gonna lie. So maybe one day I will, because I do believe I have the audiobook, so maybe it's in my backlog of audiobooks, not necessarily one that I feel like I have to not waste energy reading, but I guess spend my energy physically reading. So yeah, there was just something with the characters, it didn't hit quite the same. I think just because These Violent Delights hit me so hard, I wanted that from this and it just didn't deliver, which I know you shouldn't do. I know you shouldn't be comparing books, but it's gonna happen. Then, jumping off of that book, I picked up The Everlasting, which was such a hyped book for me, and my friend Danielle on TikTok loved it like 2 bits, and I wanted to as well. I really wanted to, but it just didn't work for me. And I don't know if that's because my mindset when I read this book was immediately, like, my enjoyment was knocked down so quickly that maybe it was like hard to rebuild. That sounds a lot deeper than it actually is. I think that I just went in with such high expectations, and then when I wasn't getting the feelings that I wanted from it, I didn't hate read the book, but I think I like annoyed read the book, if that makes any sense, because I really wanted to love it. And I just think the writing style I wasn't prepared for. It's in second person, but not directed at you, the reader, directed at one of the characters in the book. The characterization was just a bit odd. It's like a role reversal. And don't get me wrong, the idea of this book was so up my alley. And I love Alex E. Harrow's writing. I loved A Spindle Splintered and one of her other books. I'll throw it on screen. I love those books. And I'm pretty sure, The Six Deaths of a Saint. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, that A Six Deaths of a Saint, which came before The Everlasting, like The Everlasting is an extended version of that basically, or at least elements of that book. And my literal Goodreads review for The Six Deaths of a Saint is something along the lines of, I need more from this book. And then I got more, and I was disappointed. There was something about the MMC's adoration for the FMC that didn't sit right with me. It was very idolized, but almost to a overdramatic way. I think I need to give this book a reread, maybe even immersive reread, which I think would help my experience. I would love, you know what, I'm going to do that maybe like the second half of the year when it's like cold again, because it is spring outside. Like I was literally in jeans, flip-flops and a light jumper in just now. I think I'm going to save this reread for the second half of the year because I promised myself that I would give it a reread and give it a second chance. But yeah, it just didn't hit right and it was heartbreaking. I vlogged this one, so if you want more thoughts, that's in that vlog. I'm just so disappointed in myself. I just realized I don't have any lip makeup on. 1 second. Okay, lip makeup is on. I am not refilming all of that, so sorry Lily who has to edit this and notice that. Anyways, moving on to the next book. Now, I did a 24-hour reading challenge this month, which definitely helped with A, reading more books, and B, meeting my TBR. And in this readathon? Well, I guess it is a readathon. The first book that I decided to start with was none other than Sunrise on the Reaping. Again, another library book, which I read on Libby, and the whole theme of this readathon was to tackle 2 books that I had been avoiding. And what better way to do that than to just read for 8 hours straight, you know? So that's what I did. Oh, this book was so good. I'm aware that most people watching this have probably read this book already. I just delayed it because I didn't want it to be over. But then I was like, well, we're getting the movie, so I can just put off watching the movie when that comes time. When that comes around. So it's okay to pick up the book now. I don't know, but all of my reaction thoughts are in that 24-hour readathon. I love this book so much. It was written so well. There's just something about a Suzanne Collins book that just gets you thinking, gets you sad, gets you happy. Just the sweet, tender moments that we get throughout this book. So good. Absolutely so good. But then again, I cried. I think that the first tear that I shed in this book was when one of the characters got a hug from someone. Mind you, that was maybe 20-25% in. I think that tells you all you need to know. My eyes are so itchy because with spring weather comes hay fever. So the temptation to just itch my eyes, scratch my eyes, itch, scratch my eyes. I need to do it, but I can't. Anyways, moving on. The next book that I picked up for this reading challenge was What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher, which is the second book in a mini horror novella series. And I read the first one in a horror reading vlog last year, and this book, that book I really enjoyed because it had enough horror elements but still enough storytelling and writing elements and character development and types of different characters that I really liked. And it was a very well-rounded book. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna read the second book. And this was in my library, which is weird for my library because my library doesn't really have smaller niche books, and I feel like this is quite a small niche book. But anyways, picked it up, decided to read it. I just thought it would be a good palette cleanser for the books to come. I didn't like this book as much as the first one in the series. We jumped back into the world with a lot of the familiar characters, which was really fun. I love all the side characters, and I also love Alex, our main character. I want Alex to save me. I really would. I just didn't find it as horror-y if that's even a word, because I think it's because the first book I didn't know what to expect, whereas going into the second book in a series you kind of do know what to expect, but I just don't think that the horror element was as scary as the first one. I felt like it was very much contained to the village, whereas in the first book the horror element definitely could have taken over the whole world, whereas this one I don't really think it could have. It didn't make me feel like it, so that's why I didn't rate it as high. It was still really good, and I definitely do want to pick up the third and I think last book in the series, but I just didn't think it was as good as the first, but I feel like that's with a lot of books. And next, we picked up this book, again, in the reading challenge. So what I wanted to do to myself this month? Who knows? Clearly, I wanted to torture myself, because who goes from the sunrise on the reaping to this? It's a good thing I read that horror book in between, because I don't think mentally I would have been able to handle it. I sobbed so unexpectedly, which I thought was going to be expected, because my friend was like, look, it just hits you. And I was like, okay, I know that it's just gonna hit me, but really, it's so unexpected, because it is a very character-driven book, and the setting is obviously at NASA, and there are elements that, you know, I don't know much about the things that happen in NASA. I know very basic things, but it definitely, like the language and the things that were happening definitely did not take away from the story whatsoever. I really appreciate it, and I don't know how Taylor Jenkins Reid was able to do that, because I feel like when it comes to, you know, a setting that you're not really familiar with, it can be really hard to connect with what the characters are going through, or yeah, but no, it worked. It really, really worked. This book had so many elements to it. I was happy for the characters, I was so sad for the characters. It was thrilling and adventurous, and you know, you're rooting for everybody, and it just, yeah. Well, except for one character. There's one character in this who you deeply, deeply hate at times, but I think that just makes for a well-rounded book. Yeah, we follow our main character as she journeys through life working at NASA with her fellow colleagues and navigating love and relationships and friendships and family, and it just such a well-rounded book, and the setting just made it even more unique and fun. So don't be intimidated by this being set at NASA and in space, because if you don't pick it up because of that reason, I really think you're missing out. Okay, the next book that I read was an ARC copy of Wicked Onyx, which I flew through. I don't know if it's because I hadn't picked up a fantasy book to this degree in a hot second, but I flew through it, and it wasn't short. It was a super fun mix of supernatural, fantasy, academic, rivals, love triangles kind of mix of a book. The world building was quite, I wouldn't say it was quite heavy, but we definitely got a lot of it, and it always helps world building when you have your characters go to a school or an academy, because then you can just get the world building through the classes that they take, which I always think is a really fun way to explain world building, and we get a lot of that. This book follows our main character who is cursed, who has lost her magic. Her family lineage has lost her magic because I think it was her aunt did something really, really bad, and the governing body of this world basically made her family lineage lose all of their magic, and our main character is like, that's unfair, I haven't done anything wrong, why should I have to be, you know, why do I have to suffer for her consequences? Surely it's been long enough. So she enrolls at the school that the governing body, well, they're kind of at the school, but they basically train, they have lots of different jobs. It's a very big world. She goes to the school where a part of the student body trains to become soldiers, but they're not called soldiers, that fight these demons and bad creatures that live amongst the humans, and they kind of like enter the realm of this fantasy, kind of urban fantasy world. But it's, again, like I said, where the governing body is, and she wants to go and basically fight for her right to gain her magic back. And it's a lot longer of a process than you might think. Like, it's not just like, okay, yeah, sure, and then boom, she has her magic. She has to wait quite a while and do certain tasks and stuff, while she's there, she makes unexpected friends, makes unexpected love interests, and participates in, it's not really trials because it's not for like glory, it's just like academic exams, but they have a trial feel to them. I do wish that because it is supposed to be romantasy, I think we got a little bit more connection between the main character and who's supposed to be the love interest, because I felt like it was quite, not insta-lovey, but insta-lusty and insta-attraction-y, and I just wanted to sit with the characters and sit with the connection that they were forming a little bit longer. Kind of as well with the friendships. Friendship is a very big thing in this book as well, and I'm hoping we get to see a little bit more of that in book 2. So definitely going to be picking up book 2 for this book. This book is also out now, so. Okay, and the next book that we read was Practice Makes Perfect. I did start this in the reading challenge, but then didn't finish it in time, so then I picked it up again after those 24 hours. This was a really fun, cute, small town romance. I picked this book up originally when I was in the UK and needed an extra book for the 3-book deal at the Works. And so my intention was never to buy this book, but I needed a book to fill that deal, and this one was the one that stood out the most. I actually quite like the cover. I think the colours are really fun. Again, it's a small town romance. It is book 2 in an interconnected series. I honestly don't feel like picking up book 1. Where we were with the characters in this book, for like the book 1 characters, was enough for me. I don't feel the need to pick up book 1, but I do really want to pick up books 3 and 4, I believe is out now. There wasn't anything bad about this book. The only thing that slightly irritated me was some of the language that was used, just because it felt very, I'm not going to say a swear word because swear words are beneath me kind of thing. But like, I just don't feel like cursing, which is fine. You know, not everybody has to swear. But why are we going around saying HE double hockey sticks? Like, you're an adult woman. Unless you're talking to a child or young people present. It just cringes me up a little bit. Why am I so aggressively throwing this around? Okay. Some elements of this were a little bit cringy. Because then also, the intimate scenes were not, you know, played down whatsoever. So I don't really know, like there was just a weird balance of maturity in this book, which I think is why it's not my favorite romance book, but it was a fun time, and the MMC in this book was really, really nice. I really liked him. He was very attentive and really wanted to make the FMC feel loved, and I really enjoyed that about this book. So yeah, just a fun little palette cleanser of a book. Okay, and the next book that I picked up was Legendborn. I have been meaning to pick up this book since I want to say 2020, 2021, early booktube days. This book was so popular at the time, and it still is popular, but like it was really popular at the time, and I never got around to picking it up. I think because I was like diverging away from YA at the time, but now I love a good YA book. This book was so good. I completely forgot that it was a King Arthur retelling. Well, not retelling, but just like, well, I guess no, it's not a retelling. It was a King Arthur magic world set in our world. And I completely forgot about that, and I really enjoyed that aspect. It fit so well into the world and at the university, and I'm sure so many people have read and loved this book. It didn't read like a YA book, it read quite mature. The characters develop so well. There's so much historical context and meaning, and also education thrown throughout this book, which I really appreciated. I cannot wait to pick up book 2. I did pick this up from the library, so I really want to own this series because I do want to finish it. I think it's still an ongoing series. I think there's 3 books out, and it's going to be the 4 or 5 books. I'm so intrigued. Like, genuinely so intrigued. The characters were complex. The storyline was also quite complex. Like, I was a little bit confused at times, I'm not gonna lie, because the whole King Arthur thing plays a massive role. And yeah, overall, such a good first book in a series as well. Really, really good. And then the last book that I finished this month, well, last month, was an ARC copy of Tattered Tides, which is a small town surfing coastal West Coast, I believe, like American West Coast, set in California, I believe, romance. Check the content warnings when you read this book, because both of the main characters, mainly the FMC, goes through SA and deals with consequences of that, and it is a very, very prominent theme throughout the book. Like, it doesn't just happen, and that, like, it's definitely not one of those books where it's thrown in there and used to further the plot or anything. Like, this is what the FMC struggles with throughout the entire book, and it is very talked about and tackled, and I really liked the giant family that this book had. I believe it's the second book in a interconnected series. Or no, it is the first book in a series, but the parents of all the characters have their books out, have books, and the author has written all of their stories. So this world, or at least like the families and the friends involved, is very big, and I love a book like that. I love a big family, and I'm really excited for the next book because I believe it's about the FMC's friend. The setting was great, the plot was good, but the end of the book kind of threw me off a little bit just because it really focused on the intimacy between the characters and their sexual chemistry, and I just felt like it was just kind of thrown in there just to have in there, you know, and not because it was like, it didn't feel necessary. I don't know if that's just because I'm not really picking up books where the main focus is smut anymore. Like, and I feel like there was so many scenes in this book by the end of it that I was just like, do we really have to read about, like, I cared about their connection so much more than their sexual chemistry connection, and I just felt like it was a bit overdone. I feel like it could have been either shorter without some of those scenes, or we could have included some other cute moments, because the MMC is so loving and has so much love to give that I just wanted to see more of him being really nice to our MMC, basically. I definitely recommend it. I think if you want, the setting was so fun, and I don't think I've read a surfing romance, which is shocking considering I love it. Surfing, the sport. Do I have any? Yeah. And there. Like, even my room has elements, and this is the first surfing book I've read. Kinda crazy. But I really enjoyed it. I just wish that we had more emotionally intimate scenes. Those were all of the books that I read in February. We had such a good month. I really hope that we keep this momentum going. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what books you read this month, which ones were your favourite, which ones were your least favourite. Did you read all the books that you set out to read this month? Do you even read using a TBR? And I will see you in the next video.